All right, guys. So, hey, and welcome. So, to everybody who is watching this is the same scrim between the Cherry Bombs and Blizzard Bear from the night before. We are going to be watching it from the Cherry Bombs point of view and talk about what they did right and what they didn't do wrong. Like all my other previous videos, guys, it's not about, me trying to, if I talk about you or if I say anything about you, it's not me bashing you. It's just me, pointing out what could have changed and what could have been done better. So we already have talked about the Bears and I've posted that video. So we're going to just strictly try to focus strictly on the cherry bombs. There might be a few things from my previous video that is going to be repeated in this video for the cherry bombs. That's just gonna happen, and I do apologize about that. So we're gonna get right into it, and first thing we're gonna talk about is their, comp. Again, like I said with the previous video, I do think Eichenwald is a Zarya Rhine map, but that doesn't mean you have to play either one of them. Again, for the tanking, I would always suggest if you're gonna play a shield tank, just go Rhine. Eichenwald is also a great map for when you're attacking to dive on. For the tanking part, I actually like the pick of Diva and Reinhardt. They work really well together. They're very good synergy together, and I wouldn't change the tanking comp. DPS comp, like I said in the Bears video, one of the best DPSs for this map is Ashe because they can take the high ground, they can get off the high ground, they can make sure they don't get dove. And if you get a pocket with Mercy, you're going to be doing a lot of damage. Like I said before, a fire is great on the first point. Again, no complaints whatsoever about DPS. For the healing, it was a really good healing comp as well. Again, for this comp, I might actually change out the Moira myself for a Lucio. Yes, Moira's great. Moira can pump out a lot of healing, but you got to remember right now, because of the nerf that Moira got, she uses her, resources a lot quicker than before, whereas Lucio, I think it's every 8 seconds you can, pump up the volume and multi-heal. But again, this comp is actually not bad to go into attack with. So I'm going to let the video play and I will, pause when I need to pause. So right here, this is really good on Tox's part. They take the height, and they take the fight. So they're not overcommitting, but they are actually putting doing damage to the back line. The one thing I'm going to stop for this part is that Reinhardt, going into that room as Reinhardt is not always ideal due to the fact that there's a back way to get in here. So the best way I would say with Reinhardt is if you are getting hit and you need to back up straight and back into your team. Don't back into a room for one, because you have the shield. You're defending any of your back line. If you do drop that shield, or you have to back up into a room and there's no longer a shield, the enemy DPS can pick off and probably will pick off a healer or even the other DPS. So you always want to make sure you're backing towards your team when you need to back up. However, like I said, it's a great, where they are all playing are really good. Tox being over here, up in the air, still within sight of the Mercy's great. They can pump out damage to the back line and hurt them because they're up in the air. Where the Ashe is playing, you can clearly, I think the Ashe is actually just coming back into the fight. I think they backed up with their shift, so they're coming back into the fight. But playing with the Mercy with Ashe and Mercy right next to each other, that's actually not a bad choice either. You can get the picks that are needed if you're hitting your shots. Diva's in a good position. Moira's actually not in a bad position either because they probably still have their fade most likely and can fade in and out. However, I want to get back in and let the game play. So here we go. So, like I said, they backed up into that room, but it became, fine because they got out and they backed up towards them. So, just going back a little bit here, guys, I'm going to pull up the map and just pull it back just a slight bit here. Let's go back about 2 seconds. So, right here is where a little bit went wrong. Again, this is one of the things I talk about overcommitting. It was a good push. I have no complaints about the push, but the commitment here, and we're going to slow it down just to show you the commitment. The commitment to come back over to the right and fight, it wasn't a good choice. So what should have happened here is after they pushed past this choke, their whole team should have went left, and it's just or gone mini. You know, one of the two. Just it's always better to do that than to actually commit to a fight that you shouldn't take. So the reason why you should never take a fight like this, especially, is because they have the range, they have the sight line, they have a further sight line, and you're playing into what they want you to play into. They have a brawl comp for one, so that's another big thing. Like they have a Ryan Zarya that is a brawl comp, and you don't really want to be pushing into a brawl comp face first. Again, it's not a bad take. It's just in this scenario, I would have went left with my team. I would have told my team to go left. Remember, as the Reinhardt, you are running the offense, so you should have called out to your team, we're going to go left. They're not pressuring the choke. That's another thing is, in a scenario like this where they're not pressuring the choke and they don't have a Bastion to actually harm you going into the choke, you should have actually kept your shield up and get your team to the left, and then you all should have rotated left and started diving the backline. Where Salty is positioned, they are out of position to actually get back to you before you're already on the point. Once you're on the point, it's a lot easier for you to fight because then you can call out targets and they have to push you on the point now. So forcing them back on the point is always a great idea instead of engaging into the main. So when you are fighting on Eichenwald, you don't want to engage the main, which is this road right here. You might sometimes want to engage the left. You know, you might want to go left. You don't always have to in point maps to or hybrid maps to actually engage straight. A lot of people just go straight into the enemy team. You don't always have to do that, especially when you don't have a Zarya of your own. As a Reinhardt, you're a lot more vulnerable going into a straight-on fight. However, again, nothing, that take is not bad. I don't mind the take. I would just have done it a little bit differently, and that's why I'm pointing out that I would have went left. Now, we push back the team here, which is good. So one other thing I want to point out is we're just going to go back to about 10 seconds to where Hyper gets demech. So let's just go back just before they're demech. Okay, so Hyper gets demech here. Okay, so we're going to call that, so that we just say they got demech at 3:30. So if the time runs down, this is another thing I pointed out in the Bear video. This is to anybody who plays Diva. If you can't get your mech back by 3:20, by 3:18, you really should just have jumped off the map. And again, on this point, the best ways to jump off the map are over here if you're coming back. You don't want to run back to spawn, try to change or anything. It's not beneficial unless you're planning to change a different hero. Then yeah, you can. But wasting the time to try to stay out of go into Diva form or actual Diva form, it's gonna hurt the team. So this is where I would have been making my position to move back into the line, or I would have just died. I would have actually stayed and fought and just died. I wouldn't have pushed back because you gotta remember it takes you, unless you can get your mech back within those 10 to 12 seconds, it's not beneficial to stay on Diva because now, again, like I said here, so like yesterday when I was explaining the video, you've wasted the time to run back to spawn. Plus, you now have a 10-second spawn timer. Again, not a bad thing. Nothing against the players who play Diva like that. I'm just saying, always try when you are playing a Diva. If you can't get your mech back after you're demeched within about 10 to 12 seconds, you really should either, jump off the map or just purposely run into the enemy. A lot of people, like I said, will try to stagger a Diva, which is fine. What you do in that case is you focus target the weakest character on their team. So in this case, it would be like a Junkrat or a Soldier. Because Fitz might not have his immortality, but those would be the people I would focus, and I would try to take down one of them and force the res to be used, allowing you to come back with your team, because your team just got wiped, so to speak, not fully wiped, but it did just lose a fight, and there's people coming back, so you'd have been able to come back with your team. So remember, guys, within that 12-second window, if you don't have your mech, try to figure out something else like jumping off the map or trying to get a kill. Forcing the enemy team to kill you is the best way to do that. So like I said, I would have probably just died to the Zarya right here and came back with my Reinhardt. Anyway, so let's keep going. So this is another good engagement here. As you can see, they're not taking the fight because I know they are down. They are down one player, so they're down their Diva. So they're not engaging, but they are pressuring. And that's what a fire is good for, guys, is pressuring team. So what Tox and Sleepless is doing here is really good, because they are pressuring well, allowing the Ashe to also get some pressure going forward. So I do believe Tox does pick off the Baptiste here. So that actually benefits them going in because they are 5v6ing now. So that's another thing, So yeah, they pick them off, they stop the res, and I think the game just rolls here, like rolls forward here. So again, these are actually really good ults to use. You got your barrage off. Your barrage, I think, picked off the Rhine, so that's a really good pick. It stops the shield. It picked off the Rhine and got the fight going. Um, Now you pop Coalescence, which again, really good ultimate. That ultimate can be, again, this is one of the ultimates I call a defensive and an offensive ult. You can use it both ways. It doesn't have to be used strictly for offense. It doesn't have to be strictly used for defense. You can use it both ways. You guys know you are up here, and this was a really good take by you guys. Moving forward and punishing their overextension and punishing the fact that the shield wasn't in with the backline defending them is really, really good. So another thing a lot of people fail to understand in the game in general is, when you are facing a shield tank, playing the high ground or being able to do damage around the shield or trying to flank is also great options. And having the Pharah, having the tanks pressure while the Pharah pumps out damage is great, and the Ashe pumps out damage is great. And with the Coalescence, it's a great use of your Coalescence because you're not gonna have your Rhine. Your Rhine can actually push in and it'll be a little bit more aggressive. I do think he gets picked off by Satis because I believe Satis is sitting at like a really high charge at this point. But again, it's not bad to commit your ults because you've only committed 2, and they've committed a Valk and they don't have fit, so they're down a healer and they don't have any ults to commit. So the res goes out. That's a really great res. And this is what I was saying about flanking. You got your Ashe coming around on the left side of the map point instead of going with the team. That is a great way to flank. So another thing, like the first point, like I said, when you go left is always the preferred option when you are playing in this area of choke, the main. Left is always the preferred option. So if you can go to the left side and take the left side, you'll actually benefit quite a bit. So again, that's all up to your preference, and having a ranged character like Ashe here to flank and do damage is always great because you're going to punish whoever is in that point or backing up. So again, when you do push main, if you do decide to, always, if you're playing like an Ashe or you're playing like a Widow or you're playing a soldier, try to move to the left side of the map and flank of where they are, because let's say you guys got held here at main and the Ashe decided to come this way and situate themselves right here. Let's just say right here, they have a sight line on both their healers and probably another DPS. So it's always great to take the flank position if you can as a DPS. This also can be said for tanks as well. If you want to, you can take a flank position as well and force the fight into your favor by flanking. And I believe we see that on your defense with what Salty does with the flank shatter. But again, this point right here, great take, guys. Okay, so all in all, first point, guys, not very many complaints, very good takes. And, all in all, first point, I would probably say 8 out of 10 if I was going to rate just the first point take. You lost, I believe, 2 fights, and you took the third fight. So it's great. It's good that you guys were able to capitalize on, a quick pick by Tox, and then you were able to capitalize on pushing in and taking the point. So again, great job taking the first point, and let's just jump into the actual game again. Okay, so we have Tox pushing up with the Mercy into the enemy on the high ground. So right now, like I was saying with the Bears, this is where so this is where I would have changed a little bit. So you have 5 people committing to going up with Tox and Sleepless. This is where, as a Reinhardt and a Diva, I would have pressured Salt and tried to get the Reinhardt out. There was no way they would have saved the Reinhardt in time, in time for them to get back. And if they do try to go and capitalize on saving the Reinhardt, Tox is most likely going to get a pick. So this is where I would have, as the Reinhardt, taken space. And so another thing I was pointing out in the other previous videos and my learning the basic videos, taking space is the space between you and your objective, and trying to take as much ground as possible to where you're comfortable and going to stay alive. That's the best way I can explain taking space. So right here, this is all empty space right now because their whole team is up here. Now, I wasn't in communication with you guys, so I'm not sure if Talks, they called it out for you. And if they didn't, that's okay. But here is where I would have taken the space, because now even if Talks did call it out, now all of their team is up on the high ground and Ryan's by himself. This is where I would have pushed everybody but everybody but the Ashe forward and let the Ashe sit on point and just take out the Ryan if they can. Like I said, if they jump down to try to save the Ryan, you might be able to pick off a healer while Talks picks off the Junkrat or the Zarya or the Mercy. Or whoever stays up there, they might be able to pick off one character or one hero, and you might be able to pick off another. So again, that's another thing I would try to iterate, is taking space. So Tox does get the pick on the Junkrat, and I do believe they res it. So yeah, you guys are pushing forward to take space, but again, the taking of the space should have happened as soon as all of them went up on the high ground. So with their ultimate, another thing people need to understand, with Baptiste's ultimate, you don't always have to hide if the Bap isn't around. So this is actually a great commitment to the Bob. Again, Q and for the Q for the Bob, and a great commitment to the Valk. So again, this one was really good communication, I'm assuming. You pop the Valk just to help out healing, and then you pop the Bob to actually punish the enemy team in the point. So another thing a lot of people don't realize is Bob is like a Torbjorn turret. It's he can change a whole entire team fight if he's not slept and he's not killed. So remember, if they don't have an Ana, it's beneficial for you to pop a Bob and try to kill 1 or 2 players. So always try to make sure you're using your ultimates effectively. Okay, so with your ultimates, that was a great take with those 2 ults, and wasn't really bad. And then you stagger Pock, which is great because now they are staggered and they don't have one of their DPS. Now Tox has farmed another barrage here, and I think they use it pretty well. Yeah, they do. I forgot they use it in the back. Okay, this is another thing, is you stagger the Reinhardt again, and you're going to stagger the Zarya, the Mercy, and the Reinhardt all here, and it helps you guys push this point like really far. Like you guys push it almost, I think, all the way over to here in that part. And Tox falls off the map. I covered that in my previous video, so I'm not going to go back and rewatch it. So again, here, like, again, you guys staggered really well. The enemy, you staggered the enemy team really well. And you took a lot of the space that would have caused a lot of problems. Like I said on the previous video, this is one of the most deadliest chokes on this point. And I would actually probably say it's one of the most deadliest chokes on the map, because there's no real height advantage to this point. And and anybody can actually hold you there if they are effective at holding. So this right here is a really good point to push by. So you've pushed by it and you force them over into an unfavorable choke. So this choke here doesn't really have any choke points. So you guys actually pushed really well here and kept the momentum from the previous point going forward, and that's always great to do. So I do believe you guys lose. You do lose this fight, or you guys are pushed back, which is completely fine. Um, it happens. There's a lot of times where a team will push you back, and you've made them commit 2 ults to just fighting you on already previously won fight. So this is another thing I would say here is you guys got a lot. You guys get picked quite a bit, but you guys actually are don't pressure and actually push back. You guys press back and you don't pressure into them. You don't overextend. You stay passive until you can get your whole team back. So you guys, another thing I want to point out here is you guys notice the overextension of the Bears, and you guys punish both Sadness and Salty for overextending. That's a great, I'm going to say that was probably a communication on you guys, and you guys committed to taking out the 2 tanks. And I do believe this lets you guys push all the way to the end almost. That was a great bomb by the Diva. It did, punish the punish both the Junk and the I want to say Junk and Diva. So again, that's another thing I want to point out here to anybody who watches this. Remember, Bob is not just used in a sense that you have to use it as a defensive cooldown or an offensive cooldown. It can be used to actually just take a point. Bob is one of the most effective ultimates in the game, I would probably say right now, due to the fact that it is an aimbotting ultimate, and it pumps out a lot of damage really really quickly. It can shred anybody in 200 HP threshold unless slept. So if it's not being slept or it's not being taken down, it's gonna pump out a lot of damage. So it's great to use it just to hold a point or effectively stall a point, because it's got a 1200 HP health pool, I want to say, while being able to pump out a massive amount of damage really quickly for, I think it's got a duration of 10 seconds. So again, great use of Bob here. um, it's a great use all around from the team to use their ultimates. It's a great nano from Fitz onto Salt. And it's really good ultimates all around. But I will say that Bob is one of those Bobs that are actually a really good placement. You put it right in the back of their point, forcing them when they come out that, hey, there's a Bob there now, we have to be very careful. So great job on that placement of Bob. Okay, so both the bomb from Sadness was really good, and both the bomb and the tire from Tox was good. So the bomb from Sadness was good, the tire was good from Tox, and the tire from CK would have been really effective too, because technically he got both Mercy and Diva out of mech. The only problem is there was nobody on point when this happened, so the point got pushed simply because of, I believe, Bob actually pushed it just that extra little bit. So Bob actually took that point. So again, great positioning on the Bob. Great ultimates all around, guys. This was a great first round scrim. Um, and no complaints whatsoever, actually, guys. It was really really well done. Like for both sides of the team, for the most part, it was really well done. The only thing I could say here is, um, I'm not 100% sure how much you guys were doing it, but alt tracking, knowing when to push and when not to was really good. But like knowing the overextensions of enemy teams. This is for both of you guys. So if you guys are watching each video, just remember that this advice is not just for the bombs; it's also for the bears, and same vice versa for the bears to the bombs. They can be used effectively both ways. So remember, Bigfoot, was really good ultimate use. It was really good, picks off. It was really good communication from what I saw. It seems going into the first point, the communication from both teams was really good. Um, it was it wasn't 100% perfect from what I've seen, but I'm not 100%. I wasn't in comms, like I said. If I was in comms, I could tell you, but um, I assume the communication from both teams was doing okay. There's not much for the bombs I would change going forward. Tox knew when to swap off Pharah, and it was really well done, guys. So great uses of your alts, great uses of just focusing targets and knowing when people overextend. That was a really good round. So we're going to go into the defensive side of things now, which I believe take me down here. Can't really. So let's just speed over here to your defense. So let's stop right here. Going into this fight, like I said to the Bears, this map is great for double shield, so it's really good that you have Sigma and Rhine. May's a great pick because that's an extra shield. A lot of people don't realize that May's wall can be used to block damage as well. So it's great to have the May. It's also really good that you still have the, you're going with the Fire Mercy combo, the Pharmacy, because you're going to be able to pump out a lot of damage, especially with the Roof, which is right here. This is the Roof. So, that's where, Tox might come from, or whoever is on Fire come from. And keeping the Moore is a really good pick as well, because it was working really well for you guys. So again, like I said before with the Bears video, just try to play on heroes you're comfortable with. If you're not comfortable with a hero, don't be afraid to swap even if you have your ult. If you're not comfortable on something, you shouldn't play something you're not comfortable on until you can get a little bit more comfortable on it. So like when you're scrimming, always try to play the hero you're most, comfortable on, because you'll be, like I said, 3 or 4 or 5 times more effective than playing a hero you're not comfortable on, okay? But going in, I wouldn't change, actually, to be honest, for both sides of this team, I wouldn't change a thing when the fight actually gets started. Okay, so we're gonna let it go forward. So I wouldn't change a thing for either team outside of, again, the Baptiste. And again, that's nothing against the players. It's just I don't personally like Baptiste. Never have, never will. So, really good positioning by the Mercy. So the one thing I want to say here, and they didn't get punished for it, which they really should have, is Poison Ivy Ash. The Mei should have been punished here. The Mei was out of position by themselves on the left side of the map. You guys have pushed through the point, like the Bears have pushed through the point. The Mei has overcommitted. The Mei should have died here, and they didn't get punished for it, which is okay. Sometimes it happens. But you guys do capitalize on the fact that they've overextended. The enemy team is now pushed in and overextended, so you guys do, I believe, win this fight. And you guys, you get a couple picks here, so it's a good thing that you guys did come to your Mei's defense, but your Mei should have died here. In all rights, the Mei should have died. Or at least pushed into shift and forced to sit there out of combat for a while. Well, another thing is the Rhine overextends by the charge, so the Rhine here also should have died, but again, the Reaper can't get in there to actually punish that Rhine. Now, if the Reaper was in that room and that Rhine charged in there, the Reaper could actually kill the Rhine really quickly, force the Rhine down. The Mei would have went down as well if they targeted her, and then they would have been able to capitalize on those 2 picks and pushed in effectively, a little bit more effectively. Okay, so those are the only things I would mention here, is try not to overextend like this, because sometimes it works, which in this case it did, but a lot of the times it will not work. Remember, you don't always have to charge as a Rhine. You can just play it passively and walk forward with your shield. Walking forward with your shield is a little bit more effective than just charging randomly into a room, because you don't know what's in that room. Yes, you might say, oh yeah, I knew it was in there, but again, you don't really 100% know where that Reaper is right this moment. He could have teleported in before that Mei got his wall up. The Mei got her wall up, and then he's sitting in that room. He could shred your HP, and there you go. You're down a tank. And then they got to come res you, and you could get picked off. The Mercy could get picked off. So you just want to be very careful about hitting that shift or your 1 and getting into that, unfavorable position. And I speak about those a lot. Unfavorable positions are probably the worst thing to ever be in. You don't want to be on the opposite end of an unfavorable position. So I'm gonna continue playing and let it go through. So you, again, it does benefit you. You guys do you do, not capitalize. You do what's it called, come back. I would say, yeah, comeback is probably the best word for this. Is you guys do compensate for the overextension, and you guys push the Bears back. So again, right here, really good alt by Tox, and a good capitalizing from you guys to push in. Um, I again, no complaints on this one. It was a good push in. It was they were grouped up and Tox saw it. Tox went in and pressed Q, and they got a couple. They got 3 picks and 4 picks on top of the Zarya. So it was a good engagement. Nothing I would change here for you guys or the Bears. Again, this is just it's all about alt tracking, guys. This game's all about alt tracking. You got to know what they have and what they don't. And when you're playing a pharmacy, I believe it's like, a pharmacy can farm their alt within, like, I think all they gotta do is hit 2 full clips on people and they have their alt, guys. So you want to be very careful when you're playing against a pharmacy and always assume the pharmacy has their alt. The only thing I would say is we didn't need to hit shift, but again, you can use that on your cooldown freely when you want. It doesn't matter. But it's a really good engagement by Tox, and the Mercy coming in to actually keep Tox alive really does get those picks and helps out. And you guys don't. This is a good thing, is you guys don't overextend. That's a big thing I stress to a lot of people, is don't overextend. There's no reason to push into their spawn, and that is a lot of. Okay, so that's another thing. A lot of people, when you're playing competitively, you will notice it on this map especially, that a lot of people go like, okay, we're rolling them. Let's just push into spawn. Don't do that. Try not to push into spawn. Yes, it can work sometimes because they don't compensate for it, but all they gotta do is compensate once, and white kill 2 of you guys or 3 of you guys, and they have effectively won that point. So it's good that you guys pull back behind the bridge and actually go back into position. So, and it's a good thing that Ryan is here, because the Ryan can shield the back line. So that's a really good position for Ryan. For the most part, when playing Reinhardt or any shield tank, you don't really want to push past. I call it, you don't really want to push past the broken wagon if you don't have to, unless they're pushing in. Then you might want to go and engage them to stop them from pushing into the left. If they are pushing into main, you could just let them come to Hugh. Again, you have a lot more cover over here than you do over here. There's not a lot of cover on the bridge. If they have a Pharah or they have anybody who can get over the wall, there's not very much cover here in general. Yeah, there's a room here that you can go cover in again, but like I said on first point, it's a very bad position to get yourself trapped into. Same with this room here. Like I said, on this point, when you charge in there, if that Reaper is sitting in there, if they have a Pharah sitting in that room, that Pharah will shred your HP really quickly. So, or that Reaper will as well. So you just want to be very careful about backing yourselves into unfavorable positions, like I said. Yes, there's some nice cover here, but again, it's easy to flank in this room if you're pushed up over here. It's a lot harder to flank from this room. Okay, it's a lot harder to flank from the mini room if you're actually over here, because they have to run into your sight, so you'll know they're going behind you or they're trying to flank. So that's another thing you just gotta know. That's for that's just in general to both teams that try to play Reinhardt or Sigma or whoever around the wagon until they push in. Until they pass this choke, you actually don't need to play into that choke. Yes, you can, but you don't 100% have to a lot of the times. You can play passively here and just let your team deal with the Pharah or the DPS or the tanks, because pushing up here allows for an easy flank here. Pushing up here allows for a Pharah to get around on the roof and shred your backline. It also allows your Pharah to get a sight line from over here. You don't want to allow anyone to get that sight line if they don't have to. However, you are playing double tank, so you can always have your Sigma stay back, because your Sigma is a ranged tank. So you can have your Sigma sit back and just keep their shield and, you know, popping their shield up in the air if they see, you know, Pock firing off into their team, or whoever they're playing against firing off of their team, while the Reinhardt stays here and holds the choke. It's completely up to you in this scenario because you are double shield. But again, like I said, if you're just playing a Rein Zarya, best spot for you is here so you can watch this flank and you don't get, you know, bombed by the Pharah and when they start pushing past the choke. So the way I would play it, and I would suggest to get into this for both teams, is when you are holding this point or any point with the choke, once they pass the choke or once they enter the choke, that is when you start engaging them, because that means they're trying to come in. Don't engage them prior. There's no reason for you to go past this choke on defense because they have to come to you. You don't have to go to them. So even if you see like, oh yeah, the Mercy's at 1 HP and I can get a quick pick. Yes, you could get that pick, but in the process, remember, they have the closer spawn. The attackers are always beneficial on the first point because they on hybrid match because they have the closer spawn. And you might get picked off really, really quickly and you might not even get that Mercy kill. So there's no point to overextend past your choke, guys. Remember that. Both teams don't overextend past the choke. So again, Tox and Mercy are up in the air. They are firing. The Pharah and Mercy are up in the air, firing, punishing the backline. So you do get they do get the pick on the. So this is exactly what I was just talking about. Okay, so the Reinhardt was up over here, right here. You didn't even. So what happened was the Bears went around and went through. You didn't notice they were there until they actually came out and started swinging on you. So I do think you guys do survive this, I believe. Yeah, you guys survive this through a lot of, but you guys also had to force out through 4 ults. So it's not you guys. This is what I was trying to explain earlier, just a few minutes ago, is that pushing up to a choke prior for them pushing in hurts you a lot more than you just holding back and letting them sit. So in this scenario here, you guys committed both your Blizzard, your Coalescence, your Valk, and your Shatter. Wherein if you were holding the choke, you might have only had to commit your Blizzard. You might not have had to commit the Shatter. You might not even had to commit the Coalescence because you had the Valk. Remember, you guys are now down 4 ults, and you always want to make sure you're knowing what ults they have. So a Blizzard, if the Blizzard isn't popped, you don't really need to pop a Shatter, because the reason being is that Blizzard is going to freeze anybody in them. Not again, you guys do win this fight, and I do think you guys really win this fight. You team wipe them, but again, you guys also used 4 of your alts for 1 of theirs. So again, that's why I was saying earlier, try not to play up here and try to play around here. So you can always watch this, because again, anybody can walk like this and walk through. All it takes is you to be over here and your backline can get attacked really quickly. So just be very careful about stuff like that, okay? So yes, you guys do win it, but again, flanking is something that's going to happen in this game, and you don't want to overcommit too much. And I do believe the Bears do pick off quite a few here. So this is actually really good that you guys pulled back to the point. You know they're teamed wiped. And then you start moving forward as soon as you see the fire start shooting, which is really good. So again, this is a good spot to play around. So I don't have a drawing tool, but I'm going to pretty much give you a mouse. I'm going to do it with my mouse. So from this post up to this post, you know, to here and to here is like the square of tank friendliness. So this is where you want to push if you want to just give a little bit more, get a little bit more space to stop them. But that is the tanking square of friendliness. Now, if we're really talking about a game, the tanking square of friendliness shrinks quite a bit. So it actually becomes a triangle. So the best way to explain this is if you look at the shadowing of the tower. So if you're looking from here, let me just move it a little bit forward. Okay. So the best way to iterate this is this shadow is the square is the area where you want to be playing a tank until they push that choke. This is it's a good spot to stay in because it allows you to see both, again, the flank, and it allows you to easily get back to stopping them if they push into the left or the right if you're defending. So if they push into the right, it allows you to get back, and they push into the left mini, that allows you to, adjust so you're still you're shielding them. So again, that shadowed area is probably the best place you can play until they overextend or until they push. That is my personal advice to any tank player or anybody in general who wants to pick up Ryan on this map. Try to stay in that shadowed area. So it's a good thing. So that you guys saw they popped Q. You get a few. So that's another thing. So they popped their barrage. You saw it. You got out of it. They popped Coalescence, and you guys backed up. The Reinhardt charge got the pick on the Mei, and the Moira goes down as well by the Pharah. But Reinhardt is bubbled, and this is where the Zarya Reinhardt comp does work, because you're sitting there. That was so that's a great shield by the Ryan. He predicted the fact that, or they predicted the fact that the Shatter is probably coming and Salt probably has it, and this is why I say ult tracking is a big thing, guys. It's a great block. Again, they committed a lot of ults themselves. They've committed Coalescence, Barrage, and Shatter in this one fight. And the only thing I would change in this fight is this is a lost fight. So this is what you would call a lost fight. Just back it out. You have lost your Ashe very early, you lost your Moira very early, and you've lost your Rhine now. I would not have popped Graviton Flux. I would have just kept fighting on the ground and just throwing rocks, and as much as we're doing what I could to try to, stall as long as I could, and just hold it that way. Now you've lost Tox as well. Again, another thing is I wouldn't have rezzed. There's no. So in this situation, rezzing somebody is a lot worse than just letting them stay dead and getting rezzed with the team, because now you guys are 3v6ing. Yes, you might get a pick, but you got to remember your team has to get to you before this all happens. So there's no way that your team is going to come back before you guys start dying. And I do, again, this is where the Bears do take the point. They kill the Mercy, I think, here coming up. Yeah, they kill the Mercy. They kill the Sigma, so Sigma is down, and they next kill the Mercy. So the Mei does come in. Mei gets picked off coming in and dies. Mercy is off by herself, so Mercy is actually out of position, secluded, and they got nobody to. She's not being killed, but they're secluded. So this is where, again, I wouldn't have popped Valk. So you're stalling that point. You've lost all of your heal. You've lost all of your damaging characters, and your tanks aren't here. Tox is down. Ryan and Sigma are on their way back. I would have held Valk and just let myself die on point. Same with the Moira. Moira's already committed in. I would have just went to point and died on point. You might have gotten an extra 4 or 5 seconds of them losing to stay on the point. You guys could have kept yourselves up and just done damage. Popping Valk is okay, but again, I would have held it. As soon as you lose probably about 3 or 4 more people, or 3 people on a point fight, and they still have their whole team up, you're pretty much gonna want to chalk it up to a loss and just stall as long as you can. So don't commit Qs, but stall to the point where you're holding it and you're forcing them into a contest for as long as you can, so your whole team can get back. So the thing is like, you guys are gonna get, you guys get picked off, but you're not even on the point. So that's another thing I want to really, really stress to players, is try to stay on that point. When you are in a lost fight, try to stay on the point, simply because you can stall longer. Okay, you guys are now going to be in the long spawn, meaning in most cases the team would be forced to back up. And I believe you guys actually back up quite a bit. I think you guys back up all the way to the bridge, because you guys have pushed, and also because you guys were stalling so long. Another thing you gotta realize is that you've probably given them multiple ultimates that they've just used. So as you can see on my screen, but you wouldn't have been able to see this in the game, Salty's ult's almost back, Pox ult's almost back, Fitz's ult's almost back, and Mercy's ult's, Circle's ult's almost back. So the 4 ults they used to win that fight are already coming back. Whereas the ults that you guys used aren't even halfway there. So remember, Sigma used their ult and Valkyrie went off. Your ult is now gone. The Mercy's ult's gone, and the Sigma's ult is only at 20% when it could have been at 100%, and you would have had 5 ults if you held them. So again, don't commit ults to a lost fight. The best way I can explain a lost fight to you is if unless you are the healer and there's a tank and there's a DPS or so getting still on the point where you're getting a lot of picks, don't commit. If you're being picked off one by one, don't commit a Q. Just die on point. It's the best thing I can explain to you, and it will help you out in the long run because then you would have had your Q. So again, just die on point if you guys can by stalling, and stall as long as you can. So again, Reinhardt needs that backup, Sigma needs the backup, and so again, this is what I was saying with the backing up. You guys need to pressure back because you guys just lost 3 people. So that's one thing I would say is don't if the fight. Okay, so the best way I can explain it to anybody who's watching this is if the point is already 2 ticks done and it's still going up, and there's only 2 people on the point, start backing up to your last spawn. Okay, that'd be the best way I could say is back up to your last spawn. Yes, you guys get a quick respawn, but there's no reason for more people to die. Okay, so like you guys are down again and they're pushed up pretty far. And you guys, yes, you guys have the advantage because you're 4v5, 4v6ing, and they only have 1 healer, but you would have also they wouldn't have pushed up if you gave them just the room. They probably would have just stuck around and stayed on the point and pushed the point, and then you would have been able to take them instead of taking them in this fight here. You might have been able to take them into this fight here or here on the bridge. Now the point's not being pushed far, obviously, so nothing to really complain about. And that's another thing. A good stun. That is a great barrage on the team. It stopped them from actually being from pushing any further. And yes, you take it, but again, actually, you know what? I'm not gonna really say much about that. That was actually a really good engagement. You stopped the shatter, and you killed the Mercy and the soldier with the coalescence. But again, you guys also committed 2 ultimates this fight where they committed only 1. They've committed 2 as well. You've committed 2 ults? Yeah, 3 ults. 3 ults this fight, sorry. I think it was 3 ults. So you've committed 3 ults this fight and they've committed 2. You take the point back, but the best way I could say this is like you guys took the point back, but you guys popped ultimates for a 4v6 when it really shouldn't have been ultimates being popped. You guys should have just killed them. Once the Reinhardt went down, you guys should have just pushed forward and started attacking the people on the point and forcing them back. You don't need to commit ultimates to that fight because again, one fight you don't want to commit ultimates to if you can help it. It's not beneficial to you and it's not going to help out the team in the end because you gotta remember is you guys are all on the point. You're all on the point. You guys can hold the point and take it back, but you guys have already taken it back, so the Qs weren't needed. But in this case and scenario, you popping your Q got 2 picks and they're down for the 10 seconds, so it's not a bad ultimate, so to speak. So again, you guys back up to the point and are fighting on the point, which is really good. A lot of teams in general wouldn't actually fight on the point. They would be fighting wherever they want. And I do believe, you guys get the Mercy here. Tox goes to try to get the the Tox tries to go and get the Mora. Doesn't get the Moira, dies to the Moira, I believe, because of coalescence. No, not coalescence, actually. Both Mercy and Ryan are grabbed here, and this is again, this is what I talk about with this game. Actually, in general, is what I talk about when I talk about this game. You always gotta try to. I'm gonna reiterate this as much as I can for you, as much as I can in this game. Try to remember what ults they have. So when you die to a character, you get to see their ult, but you should know what ult they have prior to dying to them. So this grab was really good because it sucked in both the Reinhardt and the Mercy, forcing the Reinhardt not to be able to fool around with his shield and allowing CK to use that ultimate. CK's alt's going to be really, really useful here, and I do believe I think it takes out Tox and Mora. I'm pretty sure Pharah and Mora get taken out here. I'm not sure with that alt, but I know it takes out the Pharah. So yeah, they get the Pharah. So again, another thing like I was saying is alt commitment. So you guys are down 2 players prior to you pressing Q as the Reinhardt. You should have held Q. Now I'm not saying it's a bad Q because I do believe the Reinhardt does die and so does the Mora here. You do get 2 picks, but they also get to push the point. So try not to overcommit alts. Again, I'm gonna stress that. Try not to overcommit the alts if you don't have to. Just try to passively play that round. So that round would have been a passive play. That's what I would call it, is a passive play. I would have held back a little bit. So this is another thing is you guys pushing. You guys are actually on pretty good heroes to stall. So again, this is another thing I want to say is I was saying to, I think I said in the Bears video as well, is when you are swapping to another tank just to hold a point, if you want to go shield, anything is better than an Orisa to push onto a point. Yes, Orisa got her buff. Yes, she can pump out a lot of damage. Yes, she's a very punishing tank. But in this scenario, I would have went Winston simply because Orisa's shield does not cover 360 areas and only covers the 180 in front of her. So it's very and it's on a cooldown too and only has 600 HP. So it's not a very strong shield as well. So I wouldn't have went Orisa. I would have went a Winston. Again, you have the Sigma, so you could have went Diva, you could have went Ball, you could have went Roadhog. You could have done them all. This is actually a really good area for Roadhog due to the fact that he can hook people off the map here. But again, not a bad pick. I just wouldn't have picked Orisa. So I do believe Orisa. I do believe the Shatter gets out here. Yeah. So you guys get a Shattered here, and Salt gets 2 picks really quickly here, and I believe you guys get the Orisa and the Ashe. Then it's just the Soldier. This is actually a great stall from both the Mercy and Tox. They stay on this point for way too long, in my opinion. Their whole team comes back by the time they get they get picked. This is another thing I want to point out. Again, point is already lost. So let's just go back a little bit here, guys. So let's go back about 5 seconds. So before you even click Q, what's going on here? So before you've even clicked Q here, so let's just slow it down. Let's see when you click Q. So you click Q as that hits 31 meters. So you've already know this point is lost. 0.31 meters is way too small, even if you can get that alt to get them out of the air, not to get the point taken. I would not have committed the Sigma alt. I would have just backed up and held it. Again, that alt is great. So like I would have held it till exactly when that wall dropped, and then I would have hit Q and brought them all up in the air with me, and then slammed them down and got a couple picks. It's just Sigma's alt is great because Sigma's alt can be used to pick up people and allow your DPS to take them down. It always does half of their maximum HP at all times when they slam back down. So picking up the target, like even if you only pick up Ryan coming through, you've now removed the Ryan shield from the fight, and now the enemy team can be picked off by your Ashe. Now, if you pick up the whole backline and leave the Ryan on the ground, you're going to be able to let your Ashe get some picks. So that's another thing you got to remember is some of these ults are really, really good to hold on to. If you're gonna play the hero like Sigma, I would always prefer. I'm not even saying prefer. I would always say to try to hold that ult to the point's already lost. It's a great stall ult. It's a great C9ing ult too, might I add, because you push them so high up in the air they're not on the point anymore, and you can C9 them. So that's just some things I would say about it. So just try to next time not commit the Q to this fight. So yeah, you get the Ryan up, and you think that's it. Yeah, you only get the Ryan up in the air, and you do get, I believe you get away. Again, you shouldn't have, but you do. So again, this is another thing I want to point out is that Winston. So again, I'm not nitpick. I'm not trying to be a nitpick, but Winston should have died there, and he got really lucky that he didn't. 90% of the time, going into a small room with Winston where there's no escape is gonna net you a death, simply because if they push it on you, they're just gonna shred you. And remember, Winston can jump, but when he jumps into a small room, there's no way he's jumping through that door unless you're like really really good at jumping. So, you don't want to overcommit into that fight, simply because in most scenarios you would have died in that room. Yes, you would have gotten fits, but you would have died as well. Yes, you have the spawn advantage, but they also have a mercy to res the fits. Another thing is the Bob play here, really good positioning. It's on the point, contesting, while forcing damage out, so they can't swing into it without dying themselves. It was a again good way of backing out. So again, that was a really good back out. Like, yes, Ash got picked, but Mercy is about the res, so it's a really good backing out of the barrage. Bob is now no longer on the point. Like I said, great positioning of Bob. However, it got removed, and it would have been a great Bob if it stayed on the point. Okay, so I'm gonna let it play because the next little bit, there's not much I can say about any team. This is really good push, really great fighting. Another thing is, the only thing I could say here is losing the Reinhardt does hurt because you no longer have a protective bubble to actually sit in front of the team. So here is where it becomes a little bit, for both sides, a little bit crunch time, because they have now effectively team killed you, and you need to get back on that point before they push in. So you guys start going a stall comp, which is really good. A lot of teams won't swap to a stall comp when they need to stall. You guys swap to a stall comp, and you guys take the point back. So it's really good. I believe you guys take the point, and you guys actually win it here. So you guys really did swap really well. Okay, so you got a couple picks, which is really good. So you've picked off both Pock and Reinhardt. So now it's just the other two on. Reinhardt is now back. That is a great grab by the Bears. It does get a pick off of. It does kill Murph, and it does kill the D.Va. So like D-Mech the D.Va. So again, this right here again, like I can say, is really really good. They talk stalls the point really well for you guys. Um, gets a good grab. You guys get back. You know when you're doing your proper jumping in, you're properly defense matrixing. You're punishing the enemy team for still being on that point. And it's really good that you're doing that. So this is a great bomb. This is one of those bombs where I would is one of those bombs that are like just really good, guys. No complaints from that point. Like I said, you guys stalled. You guys did everything right on that point. Like, you guys swapped to a stall comp almost immediately as soon as you knew the point was being pushed. For both teams, again, like I said yesterday, I think I gave like an 8 and an 8.5 star rating on this game alone for both sides. And it's gonna stay that. It was a really good game. And like I said, a couple of things that you guys, both teams need to work on, and I assume, it's just natural to work on it. And personally, in my opinion, is communication, alt tracking, and knowing and positioning. Those are three big things that you guys can work on as a team. The other thing is, for the tank players, for both Bears and Bombs, is taking space. That's a great way to, a great thing to learn is taking space and knowing to communicate, and learning your communications and target calling. Remember, as the Reinhardt or the main tank, you're the one targeting people. You're the one calling out, let's kill this person, let's take the fight to them, or let's go left, let's go right. You're calling the shots. Don't let your DPS, don't let your healers do that unless you're more comfortable with them doing it. But you should be the one effectively calling out what needs to happen in that point in time. And other than that, I think this game went really well for both teams. I had a lot of fun watching it, and I had a lot of fun just analyzing it. I can't, again. My thing here is like your coach was playing with you guys, so I can't really say what was going on. Like I'd have to talk to talks to see what was going on, and see what can be fixed. But again, you guys did really well, and I'm assuming it's you guys have a lot. You guys were communicating very well. You guys were ult tracking as best as you can. You did really well. You knew what to do, and you knew when to use each ability, and when to give up a point, or when to engage, when to disengage. And you guys stalled very well at the end. Like you guys knew to swap to stall. So all in all, again, 8.5 out of 10. And if you work on those things I mentioned, you're gonna be you're gonna become a better team, and you're gonna become a better player in yourself. One thing I can suggest to the teams in general is, again, like I said earlier, always play on heroes you're comfortable with. If you're not comfortable with a hero, swap off and play on something you're comfortable, even if it doesn't give what you necessarily need. Like if you need a hit scan but you're more comfortable playing on like a Fire, or you're more comfortable playing on a Reaper, you don't need to play that hit scan. You can effectively play on the Reaper to help out, and your tank can swap to a Diva or swap to an Orisa to help out taking out that Fire. Just remember, always play something you're comfortable with, and you'll do a lot more. You'll be a lot more effective. You'll benefit your team a lot more as a comfortable hero than a non-comfortable hero. But other than that, that's it for me, guys. Thank you for watching. If you watch the full hour, have a great day, and like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.